Hello, all you beautiful people, past, present, and future. My name is Claude, and today I want to talk about a game that is considered the weakest entry in the series, .hack Link. This is the PSP installment that came out in 2010, and I recently had a chance to play through it using the full translation created by Kazi Trigger and his team. Huge shout out to them for their incredible work. Now, this game is a mixture of nostalgic callbacks, great ideas, and a couple of odd choices here. So I figured this would be the time to share my thoughts and ideas about this game and start a conversation with you guys about it. This video may have some spoilers, not just for Link, but for things like .hack Sign, the core games, you know, of like all the material that has been released prior to Link. You will be spoiled by potentially by watching this video. And if you don't want to get spoiled, I'd suggest you find a copy of the game yourself, get it translated, and you know, just go through it yourself and then come back to this video. If you end up liking this video, please hit that like, go ahead and subscribe, and let me know what is it about Link that you like or don't like. Let's delve back into the world once again. First off, one thing that stood out to me immediately is the game's presentation. .hack Link has a really unique comic book style that feels like it jumped out of a manga. The way the panels flow, the character close-ups, and the overall pacing of the cutscenes. It's super stylish and surprisingly impressive. It's clear a lot of effort went into making the visuals pop, and I think it does pay off as it looks really nice when you're going through the story and all of the chapters of the game. On top of that, the character redesigns are another highlight for me. Pretty much every returning character gets a fresh new look that improves upon their original design, putting in more personality and modern flair to that. That being said, not every design is perfect. Tokyo's X-Form in particular looks ridiculous. Look, I get that it's supposed to stand out, but when it leans too far into the ridiculous, it's just not my taste. I mean, it's just look at this guy. Even he points it out in the story at some point. Some of the other X-Forms, though, are some of the best designs in the series. My favorite design has to be Kite, especially since his twin swords can now become a bow, and that is such a cool idea for the character. Oh yeah, I almost forgot that when they do end up getting their X-Form, their cross-Rengeki animation changes as well. And we'll get to the cross-Rengeki and what that is later in the video. But let's take Kite as an example again. He can fire arrows at enemies and then make one large data drain with the final one. It is choices like these that make me love this series, and with over 30 characters to choose from throughout the entire playthrough, you'll find a character that you'll love. Now let's talk about the soundtrack. Is not much I can play in this video due to a lot of songs being heavily copyrighted, but if you played any of the previous .hack games, you're in for a treat. Link takes pieces from the series' iconic music and remixes some of them into fresh new tracks. Two of my favorite songs are Obsession from .hack Sign and Deepest Memories from GU Trilogy. The game takes all of these songs from all the various medias of .hack and brings it together into a collection of the series' most memorable tracks. Moving on to the gameplay, the combat system in Link is simple, but honestly, it works. It's fast-paced, effective, and it doesn't overcomplicate things, though it does lean pretty heavy on the badminton minigame to do big damage and gather virus scores. I know a lot of people compare this minigame to like tennis, but with tennis, at the very least, you know, the ball ends up hitting the court at least once before you make a return. In this game, you do not want your enemy to land on the ground. In fact, if you mess up, then that's it. It's just pretty much done right there. You don't get any bonuses. You lose. Good day, sir. You will end up doing this for every enemy as the most consistent way of dealing damage. Each enemy must have their break gauge broken, and it's only after you launch the enemy you enter this minigame, which you would need to time your button presses and earn small rewards like HP or SP orbs, or even bonus experience. This might not be for everyone, but it adds a quirky little layer to the mechanics. Even if it can be a bit ridiculous against certain bosses, like they'll build up like the boss, like okay, this is the enemy for this area. This is the story relevant bad guy, only for you to just juggle them around in the air as if they were, again, just like either tennis or badminton. It's just absolutely ridiculous, and I kind of like it. It feels like the game doesn't take itself too seriously in that aspect. One of my favorite aspects of this combat is cross-rank Yeki. As I mentioned before, you can perform special ultimates with the various cast of the series. Performing these attacks with your party members triggers some really cool animations that showcase their signature moves and personality. It's flashy, fun, and it's a nice nod to the fans of the characters. That said, I do recommend tweaking a few things if you're playing this on an emulator. I would recommend switching the O and X buttons if you're used to GU's combat, along with switching the directional buttons over to the second joystick. This helps a lot with camera control and using the ability wheel smoothly. There's also some light customization in this game. You can personalize the look of Tokyo and the party with various accessories, and some with joke weapons. These weapons are just hilarious, like swinging around a giant banana in combat. It's little touches like these that add charm to the game. Is it necessary? No. But I do like it when games do this. It kind of reminds me of the joke weapons from Kingdom Hearts 358 Half Days. Yes, I'm calling that, Kingdom Hearts fans. That is how I've been enunciating it. One thing to keep in mind that this game's areas are short. Most levels consist of just a few rooms, usually following a pretty linear path that ends with the boss. It keeps the pace fast, but if you're someone who enjoys exploration, you'll find this lacking. This is even more linear than GU and with its areas. At least with that, it was just kind of like you warp in and there's kind of like 5 or 6 mini sections along with a beast statue temple or maybe even a boss in a very specific part of the area. Here, it's just like it's quite literally a line to and fro. You start at one place and then you just get to the other. It's kind of on rails from there. Also, the keyword system that made the series unique is not present in this game. I understand its removal as the PSP's UMDs could only hold so much data for the areas. But the system made the previous entries unique, and it's a shame that we don't see it in any other game after GU. While you're fighting, party members will occasionally ask for certain actions, like using specific moves or meeting certain conditions. Completing these minigame boosts your affinity with that character. Failing them can hurt it. Raising affinity allows you to have a better chance at hitting enemies effectively with the tennis minigame, more abilities that are shared between Tokyo and the other party members, and also help progress their individual story with the emails. Now let's talk about the story, which is sadly the weakest thing about Link. The game throws you into the action pretty fast, which is fine, but it lacks some much needed context. With previous entries of the Dot Hack games, you were able to just pick it up, you were able to understand what's going on pretty easily. There wasn't too much word vomit and such, whereas here, that happens a lot. I mean, the little first thing that happens outside of a dream sequence is that Tokyo ends up meeting someone, and then they instantly pull them into the world RX. And then, oh, wait a minute, there's the villain. Wait a minute, what's Kite doing fighting this? It's like, there's just so much going on in such a short amount of time. And I know, like, this series can get pretty ridiculous with how much context it adds to a story sometimes, but boy, they don't give you any time to breathe, they just throw you in there. Yet the opening leaves you with very little explanation, or even a reaction from Tokyo. The good news is, once you get into the groove of things, the story settles into this sort of rhythm, and the fan service really starts to shine here. You'll end up going through the various eras of Dot Hack. You'll be going through Sign, you'll be going through like IMOC, GU, and even some like other stories like, you know, Legend of the Twilight Bracelet, or even AI Buster. Like things that we haven't seen in a visual medium like this, you know, in video game form. Which I do think that's really nice. And bringing these other titles that only get like manga or light novel releases and just kind of putting them in the game and actually showing their story, if not just like an abridged version of such. I think that's a pretty cool thing, so that way catch you up on the series as a whole, with minor exceptions, considering Tokyo is sort of standing in place of certain character arcs, and that could be a detriment later on. While it is nice to see like a abridged version of the stories that we know, also doesn't fully faithfully tell this story. It's like an alternate universe almost as to how these events play out. One small gripe I have though, and this is a totally personal thing, is how the elements of other .hack entries get mixed into the earlier settings. For example, you'll see R2 character models in R1 areas, or even lucky animals in pre-GU settings. It just feels a little bit off. It's not a huge deal in the grand scheme of things, but it does pull me out of the immersion just a bit. It would be nice to see some more unique assets, or even areas tailored to specific settings of where the story is at. Before I wrap things up, I want to mention one thing that is the weirdest but also the coolest features of the game. The email system. When you access emails and Link, you actually have to turn the PSP full 90 degrees, like you're holding a cell phone. It's a really creative idea that I don't think I've seen any other game do, at least from my knowledge. It does add a bit of immersion to it, but let's be honest, it's a little awkward. If you're holding the PSP like that 90-degree angle, you've got the you got the buttons on the bottom in the directional. Like, you're not used to using the PSP like this, and it's just kind of like I do appreciate its inclusion though. It's just weird. So it's not Hack Link perfect, not at all, but it does have a ton of charm, style, and nostalgic value for fans. Between the unique presentation, the revamped character designs, the simple but fun combat, and all the callbacks to the previous entry, Link feels like a love letter to the franchise. It's not without its flaws, but the experience is well worth it, especially now since the full translation is available for anyone to pick up. But that's my take. I would love to hear what you have to say in the comments down below. Have you played .hack Link? Do you like it? Do you hate it? Let me know in the comments below. Don't forget to hit that like and subscribe, and I hope all of you beautiful people stay classy, stay beautiful, but most importantly, have yourself a Merry Christmas.